So let's get out of the sewers and into our local game stores. It's time for the TMNT Universus pre-release. So let's talk about my approach for dealing with a pre-release, what you should be looking for in your card pool, and how to build a strong, consistent pre-release deck that is going to be fun for you to play with, fun for your opponents to play against, and is going to give you an overall good play experience. So let's start off with what is a pre-release and how it differs from other events. Pre-releases are events that run in the days leading up to a product's release. So for this event, it starts on August 8th and will be the week leading up to August 15th where the set releases. You'll get access to product early, you'll get additional loyalty points for taking part, and you'll get an exclusive Leo's Katana promo just for taking part in the pre-release. However, this is not your standard event. This is not one where you just get to bring a deck and play. This is what is called a limited format. So what is a limited format? Well, in a standard constructed format, you bring a deck from home, a deck you've worked on, and a deck that you know how it's going to run, and that is what you're playing in the event. In limited, in sealed, and draft, you are given 6 packs of Universes, and that is what you're going to be using to build your deck. It does have some new caveats. Unlike standard, there's no card limits, so if you end up with 6 copies of one card, you can play as many of them as you want. It's a little bit more loose around symbols. For TMNT draft and sealed will both be not caring about symbols, so you can play any card in any character, but we'll get into that a little bit more when I talk about the different formats. So to get back to the habit, in limited format you're given 6 packs of Universus TMNT. That'll be how you build your decks, and you'll either be playing it in Swiss or you'll be doing it as a PvE against the Mega Mutant, which is a brand new option that has come out through the digital client that UKVersus dropped. I'll get into that a little bit later on, but for now let's focus on the 2 forms of sealed that you're most likely going to be playing in a Swiss format at your local game store. In sealed, you'll be given 6 packs of Universus TMNT, and that is your sealed pool. This is what you'll be building your deck from. Each pack contains 6 commons, 3 uncommons, and 1 rare or higher, as well as a character. So your sealed pool should roughly contain 36 commons, 8 uncommons, 6 rares or higher, and 6 characters. On average, you should have at least 1 ultra rare within that, but that is not guaranteed. In sealed, your symbol doesn't matter for deck construction, so if you're playing Splinter, you're not just limited by all or water. You can play whatever symbols you want. So if you end up getting some of Raph's cards on fire, if you end up getting any of the boys cards on good, you can play those in yours. And if you even wanted to go down the line of playing some evil cards, you can play any card on any symbol on Splinter because you're not limited by his symbols, which you would be in constructed. The other way you can play a pre-release is through draft. In draft, you'll be put into pods of 8 and still giving your 6 packs. You're not guaranteed the same kind of pool, but you'll sit in your pod of 8, you'll get your 6 packs, you'll take your first pack, you'll open it, put your character down, choose 1 card from the pack, and then you'll pass that pack to the left. And you'll continue choosing 1 card from the packs and moving them to the left until all the cards are gone. In the second pack, you'll do the same thing. You'll take out your character, take out your pick, and then pass it to the right. So packs 1, 3, and 5 go to the left, packs 2, 4, and 6 go to the right, and you'll be selecting what cards you're looking for. And what cards you should be selecting, I'll get into a little bit later on. This is going to allow you to have a little bit more of a skill aspect to it, because knowing what symbols are open, knowing what people are picking, being able to identify what cards are missing from packs and what symbols are missing packs, being able to identify what's rotating around the table, are all skills that you'll need in draft. You'll still end up with your 6 characters in your card pool, but you could end up with more rares, you could end up with more uncommons, you could end up with a lot more commons. It's very easy to get distracted in draft and end up with too many attacks or too many non-attacks. So being aware of what you're currently drafting is very powerful. So draft takes a lot more skill, is a lot more intensive, and it will push you a bit further than sealed, but both are still very fun ways to play a pre-release. Once you have your card pool, once you have your 60 cards and 6 characters, it is time to build our deck. Deck construction, as I mentioned, isn't too different from standard. You get your starting character, you have a minimum of 40 cards, you can have as many copies of a single card in your deck as you pulled, and you are not limited by symbols, so you can play any cards in your deck. This can lead to fun interactions and can lead to unique situations that you'll never see in standard because of how many copies of a card you can run and because of what you can run under certain characters. The other thing to mention is that games in limited can go long if you do cycle in a pre-release instead of taking the top 10 cards from the top of your deck and removing them before carrying on. It is the top 5, so you lose half as many cards on a cycle. That's very important. That can keep you alive at some points. When I'm building my limited decks, I look for what I call my beads. My beads are my bombs, my efficiency, my aggression, my defense, and my synergies. These are the 5 kinds of cards that I look for to make my deck as powerful, as strong, and as fun as possible. So let's break down what I mean by these. So bombs, these are your crazy chase cards. These are your powerful cards that in limited can be very powerful, in the set can be very powerful. A lot of them will be SRs and URs, such as Channel Energy is a major bomb because it allows you to clear your card pool, cut down progressive, and get some serious damage behind it, but its pull rates aren't consistent. However, if we look at, say, fully equipped, which is on the common rarity, so you're more likely to see it, this is going to be a much more powerful card in limited because of how the pull rates work, because of how many assets and backups are in this set. You're going to be running a lot more of those card types, so the chances that you're going to have at least all 4 of those guys down, meaning that fully equipped gets that +4/+4 because it's going to be very easy for you to have a character, foundation, asset, and backup in your stage. Reciprocate is another one that I think will be a bomb in limited. It's an attack that gains 3 additional damage if you took damage last turn. In limited, you will not always have the perfect block. You will sometimes be taking damage, and having cards that reward you for taking damage is very powerful. Reciprocate being a great example of that. Again, these are very powerful cards that are taking advantage of aspects of the game that are going to happen regardless. Finding your limited bombs, finding these commons, uncommons, these cards that you're going to have a lot of access to early, a lot of access to in your packs that synergize with the 6 characters you got are going to be very important. Making sure you see those cards, we move on to the efficiency side. So your deck is a 40 card minimum. So if you're running those 40 cards, you're looking at 13 to 15 attacks and 37 to 35 non-attacks. We should make sure you have enough foundations that you're going to be able to pass checks, that you're going to be hitting on curve, making sure you have a lot of 1-diff foundations so you can have quite strong early game builds and be able to string out attacks as well as have those defensive options up. Your deck is a lot smaller, so you're going to see cards a lot more often, but at the same time that also means that you can be checking a lot more orange than you may have been expecting. Making your deck as efficient as possible is also a great step. Looking at characters that can help you build resources, help you draw cards, help you utilize your defensive or offensive capabilities. Characters such as Bishop, who can build assets that they check. Looking at some of the foundations like extra supplies and looking at the Mechazoids and these other cards that are treated like assets. Bishop can check them and build them in, allowing you to build outside of the end step. And then you also have things like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which means during your turn you cannot check below a 4, allowing you to go for very early, very aggressive builds because you know you can't fail checks if you're running a lot of 1-diff foundations and those lower difficulty assets. Once you've got your deck efficient, once you know you're going to be able to pass checks, draw cards, have that aspect of running your deck very efficiently, we can move on to the aggression, your win condition as it is. Choosing the right attacks in sealed is the difference between winning or losing. Unlike standard, you are not in control of the block zones that you are able to pull. So drafting based on block zones is very dangerous. A lot of people will put a lot of stock into mid blocks in sealed because you can at least take half damage. So drafting and picking and using lots of off-zone attacks in limited is very powerful. That's why I'm looking at things like Reciprocate, which is a 10 damage high attack. If my opponent drafted us their seal pool didn't have a lot of highs, I can take full advantage of that and at least get half damage in. So attacks that are not on mid, that are high or low, are worth a lot more in sealed than you'll expect in other aspects, and your opponent is very likely to have balanced block zones, so being able to utilize those off-zone attacks is very powerful. You're also then looking for characters and cards and foundations that will make your attacks harder to deal with, that will give them additional speed, that if you are able to pull a Ray Fillet secret rare, cards that are going to keep stuffing the card pool, using things like Rocksteady to keep stuffing the card pool, going to be very powerful. Being able to use things like Splinter to change your weak attacks into stronger attacks you've already played in terms of stats, very powerful here. Using things like Dive Bomb Tackle, which is harder to deal with in a later string, and because you have to commit more foundations to pass it, giving it extra additional speed. Using cards like Momentum Shift and Channel Energy that allow you to clear cards from your card pool or utilize your opponent's defense that they've been using for more damage from you. These are all great ways to push the aggression of your deck, utilizing aspects of the game which are universal. On the other side of that, because we know the offensive strategies that decks are going to be using, we can put that into our defense. Optimizing your defense would be looking at things like good block modifiers, speed and damage reduction. We have a lot of Deflect in the TMNT set. Deflect is an ability that comes in at the damage step, because so after blocks you put it in after damage and it reduces the amount of damage you're going to take from these attacks. Very powerful, a great way to stay alive in sealed. Any cards that make it harder for your opponent to play their next cards, breakers, very good. Anything that stops your opponent from attacking, putting your opponent in a disadvantageous position for the rest of the turn, very powerful and sealed. Causing your opponent to overextend can really help you, and there's a lot of ways to disrupt your opponent in TMNT. There's lots of ways to flip attacks in the card pool. There's lots of ways to stuff the card pool. There's lots of ways to take advantages of stuff in the card pool. There are great ways to manipulate checks. There's already a breaker in there. The defensive aspects of Void and Good and Water in these decks are very strong. So because you can play those cards in any character, do not overlook the defensive capability of Good and Water in TMNT at all. Sometimes for your defensive aspect, you can't control block zones you're playing. Sometimes you have to play every foundation you have, and especially in TMNT, there are a lot of cards that don't have block modifiers, which means you can't block with them at all. That is something to be aware of when building your deck, but focus on having an ample supply of mid blocks, because mid is what's going to keep you alive, and utilizing your off-zone blocks on cards that are going to help progress your game plan. The last part of B.E.A.D.S is Synergies. This is looking for fun, unique interactions, things that are not going to pop up in standard, ways to play the game that are fun, powerful, and so interesting. Universus has a long history of fun and interesting interactions, and Limited is a great way to showcase how some of these interactions that can never usually take place in standard because cards can't go together can take place in Limited. Also, utilizing parts of Limited into your synergies, using things like Metalhead, a character who rewards you for taking damage, as allowing you to use your health as a resource in Limited. Very powerful. I already mentioned Bishop, but in Limited, Bishop gets to play Brother Love, cool edits, extra supplies. Her ability is a very powerful one, but Brother Love is not one that she usually get to play. It is a good attuned card which she can't play, but still gets treated as assets. So in Limited, this is a very powerful card to have. Utilizing your synergies, finding what cards interact well within your Limited pool is a very unique skill to have, very powerful. And as you become a better player, as you get used to looking at these cards and how they interact and the timing of cards, you'll get a lot better understanding synergies. Utilizing the beads within your card pool will allow you to string a strong deck together for Swiss, are for PvE. So once we've got our deck built, once we've taken our beads, we've strung them together, we've made our deck, we will have either Swiss tournaments or PvE pods. Now, Swiss tournaments are this additional TCG experience. You build your deck and you face off against other players over multiple rounds and get to play Universus whilst experiencing the game the way it is intended at a competitive level. You play against other people, you get to see what interactions they found, how they built their deck, and you get to go back and forth having fun interactive gameplay and seeing how everyone else has built their decks. It's a lot more stressful, it's a lot more competitive, and it's a lot more designed for the more competitive and more established player. New players can still have a lot of fun doing it, but it can be quite daunting for people with very limited TCG experience to be thrown into a Swiss tournament straight away. If you're a new player, if you have more anxiety about playing the game, if you don't want to immediately have to go up against people who know the game and you're worried about not being good enough or embarrassing yourself, first of all, don't be. Our community is great, but me saying don't be isn't going to make much of a difference. But what I will say is ask about the PvE pods. The PvE, or the player versus environment, is a digital asset mega mutant that is designed for collaborative gameplay where you team up with other people, with friends or other people at the event to fight the boss character. This allows you to play the game and have fun with other people with no pressure. You don't have to worry about crazy interactions or ways that your opponents are going to be utilizing cards in unforeseen ways. The boss has limited abilities, limited retaliations, and cannot really do anything during your turns and during your attacks. They can't even block. So you're going to just be able to focus on how you're playing the game, how your attacks go down, focusing on your blitzes and your enhancers and your responses, giving you a great way to expand your knowledge on the game already and become better players before going into that kind of Swiss environment, or just as a kind of natural next step after taking a demo or learning the basics of the game. Also, being a collaborative event, it means that you can work with friends, you can work with other people, and you can even have established players play with you and teach you how to play your deck, teach you how to play this game whilst taking on Mega Mutants. So the PvE boss for TMNT is Mega Mutant, our first transforming character. Mega Mutant gets 30 health for each player, doesn't need to make checks for their attacks. They only use retaliations once your group decides to end their turn or an ability allows them to retaliate, and they don't block for you. They have an agility and toughness. If your attack speed is below the boss's agility, then your attack damage is reduced by their toughness, but your attack is considered partially blocked. There's some great ways to get some nice fun interactions from that. Once Mega Mutant gets to below half health, they transform into Mega Mutant Unleashed, which allows them to reward you for playing your pizza cards. It's a very thematic boss. I do love that aspect of it, that you get to heal and you get to become a bit stronger playing pizza cards against Mega Mutant, but Mega Mutant is not going to be that easy to take down. Unlike in a traditional game, you don't have to have your first initial build turn. In PvE, you reveal the top 10 cards of your deck. You'll select 3 foundations from those 10 cards, and that is what you get to start off with. And then you'll shuffle up, draw your hand size, and have a player 2 mulligan, which means you can select any number of cards from your hand, draw that many cards, and shuffle your deck back up. After that, players will take turn playing forms and passing, choosing a player to go first. So each player will choose to play a card, play a form, or pass. And then once each player has played a form or pass, the bosses get to do their activation. And then once you've all decided you've played enough cards, you'll end your turn. The boss will get to retaliate against all of you, and then you select a new first player to take over as you start your new round of playing forms or cards. The win condition, get Mega Mutant to 0. Your loss condition, all of you hit 0. So all you have to do is get Mega Mutant down, and you can do it. And it's not as it's going to be difficult, don't get me wrong. If you work together as a team, it can be quite easy because you can cover for each other's weaknesses and help each other out, because you can block for each other. You can do one enhance during each other person's attack. you can work together and collaborate to take down Mega Mutants. So honestly, I think this is everything that you need to have a bodacious pre-release. Get yourself some pizza, make sure that one of those slices has anchovy on to represent the boys, and head to your local store for pre-release. Whether you're taking part in Swiss or PvE, get yourself a pre-release pack, have some fun. If you're watching this past pre-release, PvE is also a great way to play this game casually. If you're a TMNT fan coming into this, looking for a fun way to play these cards, pick up a box, get 3 friends, get the digital assets from Mega Mutant, and take 6 packs each. Build yourself a sealed deck, going from what I've already said in this video, and then take on the boss. This is a great way to play this game casually at local stores, at local events, on your kitchen table. PvE is so good at teaching new players how to play this game and helping more casual players get better at this game. Let me know what you guys thought about this. Let me know what you guys thought about this. Was it helpful? Did it help you guys get all the skills and tips you need to take down a pre-release? And let me know what you think about the PvE pre-releases. I'm so glad these are back. We haven't seen them since Critical Role, and I hope it becomes a staple of pre-releases, that they'll all have this PvE aspect. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought, and let me know who you played at pre-release and what crazy combos, what interactions did you find at pre-release that are not going to be available in standard. I will catch you all at game night, and I'll let you guys know how I got on at pre-release in a later video. Bye.